Hey. Hey, how are we doing today? Good. Okay, one thing I'd like to recommend to everybody, I'm not sure if you've done this or not, but I would like to recommend that you get some sort of a binder, some sort of a notebook, and 3-hole punch a lot of what I'm handing out to you in terms of handouts and a place to keep all of your notes. You might also want to bring it every week as a resource. There's going to be times where we're going to go revert back to some of the things we talked about in the previous lesson. So it's going to be a good resource, and it might be something that we end up going back over. So just something to consider. It's how you want to organize all the information you're going to be getting over the next 14 or 15 weeks or so. Okay, homework from last week. How many people did their homework from last week? Raise your hands. Some of you actually did it. Okay, great. Did anyone read the PDF handout? Was it helpful? Is there any questions about anything on the handout? Okay, no. Second point, choose a partner from operations. Did everyone choose a partner? Okay. Next item on the list was the list of the top 6 skills and/or competencies. Now, I talked to some of you folks about these during the week. I didn't give you a lot of information from last week as to what I actually wanted this week, and I did that on purpose. But I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I expect, and then I want to get, again, another brainstorming of what items you guys came up with. But these top 6 skills and competencies are your competitive advantage over everyone else in the room. The top 6 skills and competencies are why should an employer hire you over somebody else. So obviously it starts off with what do you want to be when you grow up, because you want to know where you want to go and what kind of things you want to do. But then you want to think of why would someone want to hire me? What things do I bring to the table? What knowledges do I bring to the table? What skills do I bring to the table? Why should someone hire me? And what I want to do is I kind of want to go around the room and I want you to kind of list some things. Some things are going to be great. Some things aren't going to be so good. Some things you're going to see someone else put up there. Oh wow, I want to put that up on my list. But the goal is to really kind of just brainstorm and throw a bunch of items up on the board so that you can steal from each other. Part of this whole session is getting brainstorms from somebody else and figuring out what would look better on my resume or what would look better when I get to an interview, because you're not all interviewing for the same job. You're not all interviewing for the same company. You're not all interviewing in the same area. You're not all interviewing for the same thing. So the reason I'm partnering you up is to help each other out, and we have one big partnership here from everybody else. So, who wants to be the first to tell me one or more of their top 6 skills? Diane.
Results driven.
Results driven. Any more?
Oh, sure. Leadership.
Leadership. Any more?
Organizational skills.
Organization skills. I heard another one. Organizational skills. Someone say innovation?
Yeah.
Innovation. Or innovation skills, one or the other. Okay?
Customer service.
Customer service. Good one.
Team player.
Team player.
Multitask.
Multitask.
Project management.
Project management. What was that?
Would tenacious be the same as results driven?
Could be. Tenacious. What's that? Problem solver?
Well, I guess.
I should have, there's 30 people here, I should have close to 180.
Technical proficiency.
Technical proficiency.
He done learned that word this morning.
Those are 2 words, Mark. Anyone else?
Accuracy and attention to detail.
Accuracy, those could be 2 different things. Accuracy, attention to detail.
Communication skills,
Communication skills.
writing skills,
Writing skills.
Priscilla's too shy to say proactive.
Proactive.
Critical thinking.
Critical thinking.
Knowledge of products or systems.
So, knowledge of annuity products. Right? Annuity products knowledge. Okay, system, you want a specific system, would you put in there? Like AS400 or blank system knowledge? You also are kind of going with computer, software,
Software proficiency.
proficiency. Okay,
How about like just a personality?
you have one?
I try.
What would you, what,
That would be people-oriented.
people oriented?
People-oriented, thank you.
People oriented?
Dealing with difficult people.
Dealing with difficult people.
Fairness.
Diplomatic.
Diplomatic.
Flexible.
Kind of like a golden retriever.
Diplomatic. How we doing? Anyone else? Any new ones that are on the board there?
Yes, speaking skills.
Speaking skills. So,
Public speaking.
public speaking skills. Okay.
Logistical coordinator.
Logistical coordinator.
Sales, marketing.
Marketing skills, sales skills.
Can-do attitude.
Can-do attitude.
No.
Any others that people want to share?
Data entry.
Data entry. That's a good one.
What was that one?
Data entry. How about imaging, well, imaging and indexing. Batching, cache control.
Cash balance.
Cache balancing. I don't see anyone telling me they have claim processing skills. I'll tell you, I got a problem in my area there. Right? Licensing and appointment processing skills.
Flow charting.
Low charging skills.
Expense analysis, budgeting.
Budgeting. Expense analysis.
Problem solver.
I think we have that. Problem solver. Anyone else?
How about like legal,
Expertise.
just I guess legal expertise or legal knowledge?
Legal knowledge, expertise.
Would it be like legal compliance expertise?
What was that? Ethical. Okay. I'm going to stop now. I mean, because obviously, theoretically, we should have 30 times 6, some form of 180 of these things. We're building this right now. Hopefully, if you see some up there that you like, that you don't have up there, you're going to write them down. Okay? And we'll probably try to write these down and maybe type them up for later on. The one thing, I mean, when we start talking about resumes and building the resume, one of the key things we're going to talk about, what are those six competitive advantages you have over everybody else? Okay? And there's a lot of really cool things up there. And technical proficiency, okay, that was the one that we made fun of before. Any one of the items you put on your resume, you've got to be prepared to answer the next 2 questions I tell you. So if you put technical proficiency up there on your resume as one of your top 6 skills, the first question you have to be prepared to answer is, give me an example of when you demonstrated technical proficiency. And you better have that answer within a split second. Because if you wait, let me see, where did I have that technical proficiency? It'll come to me. They know that you put it up there and you're full of crap. So that's question number 1. Does anyone know what question number 2 is?
Give me another.
Give me a second example of technical proficiency. You better have a couple. Okay? Claim processing. You better have a couple of examples. People in claims better have more than a couple, right? I process this many claims on this much of a basis, blah, 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 blah. But if you put something up there that's kind of fuzzy, warm and fuzzy, customer service, that's kind of warm and fuzzy. It's a great one. Give me an example of customer service. Well, I answer this many calls a day. I follow up on such and such. What are the things that you do? Can you give an example of a top customer that you worked with? You know, got to have at least 2 examples because they're going to go that deep on it because they want to make sure that you're not just throwing crap up there for the sake of throwing crap up there. Okay? Everyone get their last 3 or 4 annual appraisals out? Everyone start thinking about what they want to do when they grow up. That was the toughest one out there. I'm sure a lot of you still don't have the answer to that, and that's okay. You have several more weeks to continue working on that answer. Okay. Page 3, here's some more that we came up with. Some of them are on the board, some of them are not. Administration, change management, coaching skills, consulting, creativity, we didn't talk about that, financial analysis, internet technologies, negotiating, operations management, organizational development, people management, we didn't put that up there, policies and procedures, we talked about presentation skills, process improvement skills, programming skills, or, there might be 1 or 2 programmers in here, public relations skills, risk management, scheduling, strategic planning, so there's some other ones on here, steal from them, give me your top 6 as we go along, and have examples. Okay, if someone says they have negotiating skills, one of the best negotiators in the company works for me, Michelle Maureen Bulick. She's going to have a lot of examples of how she negotiates with Versonics and with all the other vendors that she's worked with over the years. So remember, put the top 6 up there and have at least 2 examples for each. That's 12 different examples. Okay. Finding a job is very similar to finding a spouse. That explains why some of you are so bad at it. Okay? So let's talk about what those issues are. Well, first off, there's research. Okay? You got to try to find the right one. And then, what things do people do to find research? Well, some people put out lists. I'd like a blonde wife, or I'd like a brunette wife, or I'd like an intelligent one who has high school education, or someone who's got a college education. Or I'd like one who would just listen to me once or twice. Methods, there's different ways to meet people, okay? There's bar hopping, there's meeting people through friends, there's blind dates, there's dating services, there's internet services. The first interview is very similar to the first date. First time you're meeting somebody. You get in there for the first time, one-on-one, you don't know what to expect, there's butterflies in the stomach. What's going to happen throughout this thing? Am I going to get along with the person I'm talking to? Job offer, very much like a proposal. They usually don't get down on one knee when they do your job offer, like Bill did to John. But it's very similar, it's very close. Negotiation, yes or no, and the date of hire is kind of your wedding date. And if you take this analogy even further, after you hired somebody, firing somebody is very similar to going through a divorce. Right? You need to get a lawyer, you need to go through the legal people, you need to go through a lot of documentation and negotiation and all the stuff that goes along with that, and it's long and it's painful. So companies want to get it right. And you want to get it right, because you don't want to change jobs every 2 minutes. Some of you have been in this job for 10 years, some of you have been in this job a little less than that, but you want to get a job that you're going to be happy with, and you want to get a job that they're going to be happy with. Now, if you agree with this analogy, then the resume is analogous to a video that you might get on the show Blind Date or Love Connection. Right? Everyone's seen Blind Date. Everyone's seen Love Connection. Some of you probably went on a Blind Date or Love Connection. Some of you might have done a video dating service. But that's what the resume is all about. You need to try to impress somebody you've never met before in a very short period of time. So our next set of modules, today we're going to start talking about preparing a resume. On June 23rd, we're going to talk about prospecting companies and prospecting people. Because we're going to try to figure out how we can get you in front of people to try to have that first blind date. So, first let's talk about preparing a resume. We could ask 10 different people what's the perfect resume, and you're going to get 15 different responses. There's no such thing as a right resume or a wrong resume. I'm going to give you some ideas and some things that have worked for me. Some people can share some things that work for them. You're going to see a lot of different books. There's 5 million books about resume writing, and they all have different things. And what you need to do is figure out what makes you most comfortable, what style makes you most comfortable, the way things make you most comfortable, because this is you. You are selling you based on the beginning part of this piece of paper. So we talked about last week, you must pass that 15-second glance test. Companies are seeing hundreds, if not thousands of resumes. A lot of these resumes are being put right into a scanner, and they're being put into a database. And so you say, okay, well, they got all these hundreds of resumes in this database. How are they going to find you? And the way they're going to find you are those 6 key skills and competencies. Because they want someone in customer service. maybe to be CSR, maybe to do processing. They're going to type into their database customer service. And resumes that pop up with more and more customer service type hits are going to be the ones that are going to be sent out in front. The ones that don't have those are going to be set in the back. So again, skills and competencies that match the job you want is very, very important. And there's a lot of new software out there that companies are using to make sure that they can get that. You want to summarize your transferable skills very, very quickly. Now, 15 seconds. The top 6 things are the first things people are going to see. And you want to quickly show past results that you're going to be able to bring to new companies. So while some of these things might be really, really great, we might be ethical, okay? But if there's no true results, they're going to show what you're going to do for this new company based on ethical. Maybe that's not the way you want to go. We talked about everyone having their own opinion on format, but how long? How long should a resume be?
1 page.
1 page?
1 to 2, depending on the
Who
level.
thinks 1 page? Who thinks 2 pages? Who thinks more than 2 pages? There's no real right answer. But the fact of the matter is, if you've been in the business like I have for 22, 23 years, I can't put everything on 1 page. So if you've been,
I was talking to someone that works for a staffing service the other week, and she said 1 page, because like we were talking about last week, how they look at it in like 15
Yep.
seconds, to bullet anything, like
Yep.
it has to be right there, so they look, and if they see something come out at them, and they're like,
but the fact of the matter is, some people, you know, if you've been in the business world for 20 years,
no, I know.
you can't put it on 1 page. And I wouldn't try to force it on 1 page and with three-point top font, okay? If you want to put it on 2 pages. Obviously, the first page has got to have the bulk of what you want. The first top of the first page has got to be something they're going to see and something they want. So I agree with what you're saying
You're not
there.
saying, just saying 1 page, 1 page.
But you just,
it
you
depends
know,
on the level of the
it depends on
job.
the level of the job, depends on the person.
But she would say,
Yep.
her point was, they look, and, oh, okay, you know.
You just have to show some sort of progression.
There's no right answer, there's no wrong answer. And it all depends on you. Okay, if you've been in the same job for 20 years, okay, chances are you can put it on 1 page.
Right.
But if you've done, in my case, I've been to 4 or 5 different companies and I've done several jobs within those companies, I can't put everything on 1 page. Now, I might be able to when I want to be a teacher, because I have almost no experience in that. So things might change when I'm switching my careers. Okay, types of resumes. There are 3 types of resumes, which we're going to go over in great detail. Chronological, functional, and a combination of the 2. And I've handed out to you, so make sure you pull out the first handout, hopefully you all pick that up, is 3 examples. One is Ben Cartwright. For those of you who ever watched Gunsmoke way back when, some of you are going to actually be showing your age. Roberta Petrie, who's going to do a functional one. I believe it's a little takeoff on Rob Petrie from the Dick Van Dyke Show. And me, which is the combination one, which you'll be able to see. Again, we'll go through it pretty quickly. I can't believe this class is going to last an entire hour. I think we're going to get a little bit faster, depending on how quickly we want to go through some of the details on the resumes. But the first one we're going to go over is Ben Cartwright's and Ben's chronological format. As you can see, the chronological format is the most common format. And I'm giving you 3 different formats, again, so you can choose for yourselves which things you want to do and what things you're going to be more comfortable with. The more resumes you see, the more types of resumes you see, the more you're going to be able to pick and choose and steal from different ones to do the different things you want to see. In a chronological one, in job history, the most recent job is first. So your American Scandia Prudential Financial Company would be first. The company, and you might have done different jobs within American Scandia. Some of you folks have been around for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and you've done more than one job. So you want to put your most recent job first, and then below that the next most recent job, and below that the next most recent job, whether it be company, a different company, or the same company. And you want to try to make sure everything fits chronologically. It's almost like filling out an application. A lot of applications you're going to fill out are going to be that way as well. Best used for someone looking for work in the same field. Work history documents significant career growth. So again, if you've been in one company for 10 years and you started out as an assistant widget maker, and then became a widget maker, and then became a senior widget maker, and you became an assistant director widget maker, and a director widget maker, that's pretty good, right? You're showing progress, promotions, going through your, even though you've been in one company for 10 years, you've done more, you've had more responsibilities, you've had more different assignments, you've increased your worth to the company. Chronological is also best for someone who wants to stay in the same industry. So let's look at Ben Cartwright's chronological resume. As you can see, in the top of Ben Cartwright's resume, he has all his basic information. He lives on the Ponderosa Ranch in Chicago, Illinois. He has home telephone number, office information. Obviously, you might not have an office information by that time, but you put it on there for as long as possible. And I would strongly recommend you put an email address, unless it's something like sinfulruby69 at AOL.com. In which case, I would change my email address before I put it on my resume. You're all laughing, but it actually was an email address we did get from somebody who applied for an imaging distribution and cash control job several years ago. And we don't have her phone number, so for any of you guys. The top is a career summary, okay? So with Ben Cartwright, he's trying to say in a very short period of time, 2 to 3 sentences, here's what my career has been about, okay? He's a skilled executive with proven expertise in management, employee benefits, underwriting, field sales operations, and insurance industry. So, what Ben chose to do for those 6 key competencies, which is management, employee benefits, underwriting, field sales operations, and insurance industry, also put in there project management, planning, and communication skills. So he kind of snuck in 8 in that 2 sentences there. Kind of put it in prose. Okay, and that's one way of doing it. You can take it, put it into a sentence and a couple sentences, and people could try to find what those are there. But if someone put it into a scanning and they ended up doing a search on communication skills, boom, Ben Cartwright's resume is going to pop out on somebody's desk. Professional experience, again in backwards order. So Ben's worked for Insurall for the last 10 years as National Director of Sales and Marketing. Before that he worked for Travelers. I don't remember him. I worked there around the same time. And you see on page 2, he worked for Travelers for quite some time. He had 2 jobs with Travelers, and then he had 2 jobs at Aetna Life Insurance Company from 1980 to 1990. And again, showing his development as he was going through that. And then also what you want to put for the chronological format is, at the bottom, either things like education. Sometimes they tell you not to put in the date you graduated. Sometimes if you're older, you don't want to put in that date because people are going to look at that resume and work backwards and say, oh, this person's in their 50s. And I know it's illegal. I know that people are not supposed to do it, but sometimes they do it. So you might want to think to yourself, do I want to put the year I graduated on my resume? Same thing with GPA. Some people say, you should put the GPA in there if it's high enough. Some people say by the time you've been in business for 15, 20 years, do you really need to put it in there? And then there's other things. Again, if you're looking to fill your resume with 2 full pages, is there anything you've done with the community? Is there any awards you've won? You've won, some Star Awards, if you won some Achieve Awards, if you won some, Employee of the Month Awards, or, there could be team awards you were part of as well. Professional affiliations. For someone like me, I'm in the Fellow Society of Actuaries. Our folks CPAs, or folks something to do with claims. There's designations with claims. Different honors, different publications. If you ever, you can even have public speaking things out there if you've ever gone and give speeches out to anybody. Toastmasters. But if people have actually spoken at LIMR conferences or MoMA conferences or such. So chronological format. How many people right now who currently have a resume have used the chronological format? Almost everybody. It's most, as we said, talked about earlier, it's the most utilized format. Okay. Any questions on chronological format?
Back to back like this one?
Good question. Very good question. Thank you very much. No, the answer is not back to
When
back.
I say 2 pages, it's front page, front page.
It's not, you're correct. I did it just to say paper.
No, that's all right.
It should not be front to back. It should be 2 separate pages. Obviously, a lot of the things might be emailed. The other thing you got to think about is email ability. You might want to email it to yourself to see how it comes out. Right now, it's a lot better than it was several years ago, where you might email something and all of a sudden it changed in the format. Now, Word is pretty good, and it's pretty easy to make that happen.
Another thing is that you should only be using text only. If you're writing a line at the top, do not draw a bar, because it does not transfer when they do scanning or online. Everything should be characters on your keyboard, because a lot of them get transferred to text-only files. No graphics,
No smiley face.
Another good point.
no smiley faces.
No smiley faces. Okay, next up is functional. And I'm giving you functional because it's out there. I've never seen a lot of these, and there are some pros and cons to functional. Functional organizes experience in terms of skills and accomplishments But there's a big caution there, and you see this in the second bullet point. It's a red flag to employers that all the information is not included. Okay, because you're organizing it in a way that you're talking about your skills and professional accomplishments, and by the time you get to professional experience, sometimes there might be holes, right? You might have, in some cases it might make sense, you took off 2 or 3 years to bring up a child. Sometimes it might not make sense, you were on a job for a year, and you got laid off from a previous job, and it's, sometimes it's a little bit hard to explain it. You just got to make sure you have the answers to any holes in your resume as to why you might have left one company or another company. It's best used for career changers, frequent job changers. I recommend, and most of you are not frequent job changers, since a lot of you have been here for a while, and those with limited work experience. So let's go over Roberta Petrie, who's from Ogden, Utah. Again, the same type of start as the other one. And she also has a career summary. Again, you can see international accounting, treasury, credit, finance, overseas, diverse cultures. So she has her 6 items, again, in prose, in her career summary. And as you can see, what's different from the previous chronological one is she starts off with talking about her professional accomplishments. So she talks about her key skills are accounting. And here's what I've done when I was an accountant. I implemented this. I wrote these policies and procedures. I've done treasury and finance skills. I've developed and installed this. I've established this. I've helped reduce costs $100,000 per year. And credit. I've developed policies and procedures. I've supervised. I've managed. I've presented. All very action-oriented words, which we're not going to talk about in this seminar as much as next week's seminar. But again, she's talking, you don't know where she's worked. I don't know what company she's worked for now. I don't know if she worked for Travelers, American Scandi. I haven't the faintest idea where she's worked. All I know is these are her skills.
What do you consider her examples?
Say that again?
What do you consider her examples of her skills? You were saying be ready with 1 or 2 examples.
They would be. They would be. But they might ask her, okay, tell me how you implemented that recent accounting policy. Better, theoretically, you know what you've done. And you want to go into much more detail. You can put anything on a resume, but they might ask those more detailed questions to make sure you actually you've done what you said you've done. Page 2, as you can see with hers, is a lot less details in terms of where she's worked. For the last 16 years, she's worked for Caltex. I don't think does she have any holes in her resume? 70 to 86? She has no holes in her resume. So she was at Ernst & Young before that for the previous 16 years and worked her way up from auditor to senior auditor to managing auditor. Again, she put in education. One of the key things there, she graduated magna cum laude, so she's obviously a pretty bright cookie coming out of school. But she's been out in the working world for now 34 years and theoretically knows her stuff. So again, you go down the list: career summary, professional accomplishments, professional experience, education. You can, again, throw in those other things if you want. The same kind of other things: community awards, community affiliations awards, professional affiliations, honors, or publications. I have not seen many of these type in being on the other side of hiring people. I've never seen many in this type of format, but I wanted to make sure you knew of it. Does anyone have this kind of format as a resume? I would have been surprised if anyone did raise their hand.
I did have it, but
You did?
what I did is I used the competency as an overview and then did kind of a drill down to the questions that might be asked, with the answers to that,
Okay.
just for my own use.
Yep. And it's good, and obviously, as even as kind of Dee alluded to, as we're going through all this stuff, and you're noticing this just from last week's homework, you're kind of being asked to learn more about yourselves, right? You're kind of being asked, what am I good at? What do I want to be when I grow up? And then I'm going to be, again, continuing to test you to say, give me some examples of that, because eventually someone's going to ask you for examples of that, and so you're learning more about yourselves in order to prepare for the interviews and to prepare for the networking, etc.
I see goals is no longer an item.
Goals?
Yeah.
Yeah, all that stuff changes. I mean, again, you're going to see on mine, which the third one, you're going to see profile at the top of mine, which is a little bit different than a career summary. But all those things change, and you're going to go to that 2-day seminar, and people are going to tell you there's a different head. You got to decide which heading you want, which heading makes you feel most comfortable. The last one is the combination one, which is my favorite because my resume is based on that. It uses features of both types. It does talk about the positions and the companies chronologically. It does talk about skills and experiences, and I try to put them in as themes. I match my achievements and my skills to job requirements. I think it's the most versatile style among all of them, and I think it's very easy for the employer to, whether it be one page or 2 pages, to be able to see what skills I have and do my skills match what they need very, very quickly. Again, this is best used for mid-career changers. So, let's go into Harold's resume for the combination format. And I took out all my personal information. Yes, ma'am?
Yeah, on your resume, you don't have your address or your phone
I took it
number.
out. It's there. I just kind of whited it out because I don't want you calling me up late at night.
Oh, okay, so that,
I was thinking of you when I purposely did this. I say, Gloria's going to be calling me up.
Looking for UConn tickets.
But it's a good question. Yeah, it's a good question. Right underneath there's my address, my telephone number, and my email address, which is simpleruby69@AOL.com, if any of you are interested. My profile talks about really what I've done. Here's what I've done in my life. Okay, so I'm a results-oriented, and I think you saw that up there, results-driven. Customer service and operations executive with a successful leadership record in quality and productivity improvement, re-engineering, and cost reduction strategies. Achieved a reputation for aggressively, I think aggressive is up there somewhere. I think most of you could say I am a little aggressive. Aggressively completing projects on time and within budget. Change agent who can analyze quickly, recommend and implement solutions with minimal disruption to existing operations. On top of that, I really want to make sure they get my 6 key points. So I plaster them with 6 bullet points right underneath them. I'm saying some of the same things I said earlier. Again, if that thing gets scanned in, and they're looking for someone who has re-engineering experience, they've now got 2 hits literally in my first quarter of a page. I talked about it in my prose, and I talked about it in my bullet points. So as you can see, my 6 bullet points talk about re-engineering and process improvements, and I think you guys can tell me some examples that I've done of that. Project management and implementation, I think you guys can tell me some examples I've done of that. Strategic planning, you guys might not have seen that. Some of you have, some of you haven't. Change management, I think all of you could say I've done some change management while I've been here. Consulting and team development. So these are the 6 things I wanted American Scandia to see for me when they hired. These things haven't changed from my last resume to this resume, even though you can see I made some improvements or updates in my work experience. So then I get to work experience. So again, it looks chronological, right? It says I've been at American Scandia from 1999 to the present. Here's my title. Now what I like about this is I have a really kind of a paragraph that talks about what my job description is. Here's what I've done. And then underneath that, I got 3 bullet points talking about what my results are. Here's what I can do for you if you hire me. I saved $2 million a year here. As a business leader, I did this, and then I saved another $1 million per year. I drastically improved this unit by doing this thing. So again, the first prose talks about here's who I reported to, here's what my organizations were underneath me, here's where my premium and my number of investment professionals and the amount of budget I had underneath me, and here's what I can do for you if you hire me tomorrow. Same thing with Deloitte & Touche, more prose than specifics because a lot of the specifics were more consulting and I didn't want to be a consultant. I wanted to really head up an operation. You get to Guardian, same thing, prose, and then 2 bullet points on page 2. Travelers, prose, bullet point, prose, 2 bullet points. And you're going to see a lot of action verbs, and a lot of things where if a company, if I catch their attention in those first 15 seconds, and they continue reading, I'm hoping I get them so excited that they want to pick up the phone and call me up right away. At the end, instead of having a bunch of different things, because I'm not going to make mine 3 pages, I truly don't think it should go over 2. I ended up just putting my education in there. I wanted to make sure people knew I was an actuary, and I did go to the University of Connecticut, which for some of you might not know, we have the national champions in both the men's and the women's basketball. Some of you might not realize that from previous sessions. But again, if you have any other room, you could put in things like community affiliations. I'm working with junior achievement. If you work with the JCs, if you've done things like that, awards, professional affiliations, honors, and publications. So if you see, yes, Kat.
Well, you finished. I just had 2 comments.
No, go ahead. Go.
Number 1, I thought it was interesting that a lot of us get stuck with thinking we need an objective in the very beginning. A lot of people open up with results-oriented, results-driven individual seeks such and such and such, and then you're having to change the resume for each and every job you're applying for. I notice you don't have an objective on here anywhere, and is there a reason for that, number one? And the second question was, you had mentioned that you had one place that you literally were there for 2-3 months. I don't see it on here, and my question is, if you had a job situation where you were there for a very short time, how do you not lie but not highlight the
Yep.
point that you're there for 90 days?
Okay, the first one is objective. Again, as I talked to you, you can put anything at the top that you want. You know, career summary, profile. I've had past resumes with objectives on there. I find, especially if you want to stay in the same industry or you want to stay in the same thing as what you're doing, your profile is saying, here's my track record. Here's what I've done. Your objective is to get a job, and almost anyone who's going to get your resume knows that. But here's what I've done, here's what I can do for you. Your objective might pigeonhole you into something that they don't have available right now, but based on what you've done in the past, they might see a fit for you doing something else. So that's just my opinion. A lot of people who might come right out of school might throw their objective on there because they don't have a track record of, here's what I've done in the past. So my objective is to get into the nursing industry, or to be a teacher, to be blah, 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 blah. Your second question was, I told you I had a job for 3 days, right in the beginning. I chose not to put it down there because I didn't do anything. And it really wasn't germane. It was back, matter of fact, it says travel was 1982 to 1985, and I worked for those 3 months in 1982. There was no, people wouldn't see a gap in my resume because I worked from June to September in 1982, and then I started working in October of 1982 to 1995.
So what if you have a job that, I know you're trying to show a progression,
Yep.
and part of my problem is, I've done so many different things. I've done advertising sales, I've owned a business, I've done temp work, I've done administrative work, and so some of it, depending on the type of job or where I want to go, makes sense to have on there. Other things that doesn't make sense and you don't want to hold, you know, how do you is it
You can-
advantageous to leave something off?
You could put something down there, again, if you're changing careers, you can put something down there from 1982 to 1980, 1982 to 1987, you were doing something that you continue to want to do. 1988 to 1990, various, you can put the company down and try to put, you can do either one of two things. You can either say, put the company down and put the types of skills and things you did there that would continue to help you in the career you're looking for. Or you can put various other companies. I worked for various other companies from 1988 to 1995. And when you sit down and talk to people, say, yeah, I work for this company, this company, this company, but I don't want to do that anymore. I mean, for me, all the work I've done between 1982 and 2004, and I'm going to put some of the companies down there, but it has almost absolutely nothing to do with teaching. Right?
Right.
So I'm going to say I was, became a vice president up to, here's what I got up to, here's some of the things I did, but it's going to be a very, very small part, probably at the end of my news resume. Because it's not going to have anything to do with what I'm trying to do. If I want to stay in operations or customer services, then I put that up there as a top thing. So those are going to be some of the things that we'll probably have to work on more one-on-one than as a group. You say, okay, show me what you got. Let's figure out what we're going to do with it. And it might make sense to get multiple opinions, like a Stacy Fontana. We might want to bring her in to talk to her one-on-one or in a group, or someone else from Human Resources that actually see these things over and over again.
What is it you have over here, like you have 82 to 95 travelers, and 94 to 95 you got a specific job.
Yep.
If you had someone who, say you had, 3 or 4 jobs in a year doing these different things like temping and so forth and so on, what happens if you put the name or just put the time period here and then just put bullets underneath and indented it and then put down that, you work at this place, this place, this place, so you don't have the gap, but you're not listing each one individually, you're kind of putting it under
There's a bunch of
paragraph.
There's a bunch of different things you could do to try to eliminate some of those questions. So, for instance, you looked at my resume, and even if you study my resume, none of you really know that I was out of work for Travelers for 2 months. Right? I ended Travelers in 1995. I started Guardian in 1996. My last day at Travelers was December 30th, 1995. I didn't start working at Guardian until February 20-something. So I was out of work for 2 months. You really don't know that. I was out of work for Guardian for 9 months. You guys don't know that because even though it says I left Guardian, I was paid through Guardian in 1998. I kind of left them in 1997. But I kept getting paid to them to 1998 with the severance package they gave me. A little sneaky there. And I started in Deloitte Touche in 1998. Wow, isn't that pretty cool?
Right, and plus you did not include any months. So you have
Yeah,
years.
I would very strongly recommend you don't include months. Because now all of a sudden you're trying, January to June, and all of a sudden October, well, what happened in July, August? You want to keep it high level. You want to reduce the noise about some of those questions that you really aren't dying to answer. But you better know the answer to them if someone asks you. Someone asked me why did I leave the Guardian. I know the answer to that. I can tell them all the specifics in the way I want to tell them that. Just like we'll go over with you in several sessions. Why are you leaving American Scanning? Why did you leave the company? Okay, you need to know that. You need to know why you left all the companies, but you definitely need to know why you left American Scanning in a way that doesn't sound. And in this case, for almost everyone in the room, it's not going to sound that. I left the company because there was a merger, and the job was eliminated because the shared services did it for more than just annuities. And boy, we stayed on to help them out through transition. We stayed all the way to the end because we're professionals. We wanted to make the transition as best as possible. And now we're looking for new careers.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, I don't know when you left American Scanning for other reasons, but what if you left for other reasons?
What if you left for other reasons? Well, it depends on what the reasons were. I mean, if you got fired, that's the toughest one. It truly is the toughest one. And you got to figure out, you got to figure out what is American Scanning going to say when someone refers and calls them up, and what will some of the references say. So, for instance, I'll tell you something that I haven't told many people. Theoretically, if you called up the Guardian and asked them why I left, they would have said, "Well, I left because we just left on our own."
Mutual agreement.
Mutual agreement. For all practical purposes, I was fired from the Guardian. My boss did not want me working for him anymore because I was doing things that were just a little too fast for him. Okay? So we had to figure out a very polite way of saying. So my response was when people said, "Why did you leave the Guardian?" I said, "Well, when I went to the Guardian, none of these are lies. When I went to the Guardian, they told me they wanted me to come in, they wanted me to be a change agent, they wanted me to make changes and improve them and bring them into the 21st century." And I started doing that. But they really didn't mean it. They really weren't ready for it. And so as I was doing things that were big and small, the more things I was doing, the more uncomfortable they were getting. And so we sat down, we talked to each other, and we decided, we really need a parting of the ways. And so I left the company. Now I'm looking for a new opportunity to blah, 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 blah. Boy, that sounded really nice, didn't it? Mm-hmm. Literally, my boss told the Senior Vice President of Human Resources to get rid of me. And I did nothing. Oh, by the way, just so you know, I got a 5 on my performance appraisal 3 months earlier. A 5. So that's why they had to pay me off, because they knew I had a nice lawsuit. But if you're fired for other, damn it, don't be fired for not showing up to work. Don't be fired for being lazy. Try to figure out a way. What is that right answer going to be? And obviously, none of us have to worry about it because we're all leaving for the same reason. But that's the time when you want to talk to your HR friends or people say, okay, help me put something that I'm not lying to, but I'm also trying to get in front in the best way possible that I'll be doing better in my next job. John.
Use special resume paper,
We'll talk about that in the future. You don't have to use special resume paper. I mean, I think it helps out. It helps out. I mean, you can go to Staples now and get things for a fairly reasonable price. I mean, in the old days you had to go and actually go to a printer and get it done. You don't have to do that anymore. With laser printers now, you can make that happen. But we'll talk about some of the quality of that in about 2 lessons. Right now, I just want to focus on the format and making sure we kind of understand what the different formats are out there. Any other questions on this? Okay. Here's your homework. Choose a resume type. Remember, there's no right way, there's no wrong way. Choose a resume type that you're happy with, and make sure you're ready to start working on that resume type. Second one is I handed out, the third handout you got is Resume Worksheet A. which leads you to believe next week's homework is going to be resume worksheet B. That's the harder of the two. Obviously, you're getting a little bit of a reprieve since we have a 3-day weekend, but this homework should take you less than an hour. It's a guide only. It's basically all factual. Tell me what your name is, what your address is, where you live, what's your email address, the top 6 words or the top 6 skills or competencies that you either wrote yourselves, you got from page 3 of today, or you've written down there. And obviously you want to be thinking about, are those top 6, which will change, possibly will change over the next several weeks. What examples do I have? What 2 examples do I have of those top 6 pieces? And professional experience. You can see it starts with present company, then the previous company before that, and the previous company before that, all the way down the line. Find out what their address is, city, state, what dates were you employed, what were your job titles, what were your responsibilities, what were your job duties. Okay, just basic facts. And then on page 2, education. Hopefully, as much as you have, professional development as much as you have, honors and awards as much as you have, and other types of things as much as you have. You're not going to have answers to all those. Some of you haven't published anything. Some of you have no community involvement, etc., but some of you do. And also think about some of those community involvement things, how they might affect someone reading your resume. And if it's going to play up to their prejudices, don't include it. I'm going to tell you the truth. Your goal, again, is to get in front of somebody, and if you are, I can't think of anything that's that radical that you would, that you might be involved with. So they're a radical organization. You don't want to put this, that you had a leadership on a radical organization if that's going to do something that's going to stop you from getting to that, in front of that next person. All you got to do is handwrite it. You don't have to type it in. Just handwrite it. It should theoretically take an hour, especially if you know. And again, when it comes to the companies, it's only city and state. You don't have to really come up with what the address is. This is the information you're going to put on most of your initial part of your resume, whether it be chronological or functional or a combination. Something's
So under the others, for community leadership or volunteer activism, it probably wouldn't be wise to put down if you were like a member of a church or a political organization.
I think you're just risking yourself. I truly do. I mean, and no offense, Ku Klux Klan. NRA. I mean, you really want to start off something, blind date. You check out that blind date video. You want someone coming out and saying, "I'm gone. I've gone somebody." I mean, you're trying to impress somebody to meet you. Still might not work out, but you're trying to get someone to meet you. And so I just would be a little careful.
When you write up your previous employers, you've gone through several mergers in your last employer. Would you list all of the names of the company of what it was, what it is, or just as the last name, like would I just put Prudential at this point?
Yeah, again, with mine, I put American Scandia Prudential Financial Company,
Right.
and I put it like 5 years. I mean,
Right.
you could explain to them. So I know you went through a bunch of banks. Sean, what was the last one?
Actually, Fleet.
Fleet. So I put Fleet down there. I put all the years, from that you were part of Fleet, and you might even put most people know that the banking industry is going through a flux of mergers, et cetera. You can actually talk about it as you go through, but I just put the last one in there because you don't want to make it look like you can't hold a job or you're
Right.
moving all around, especially when you were there for like 14, 15 years,
Close to 20.
20 years, so you had stability.
Wow.
You want to show I was with one company for 20 years. I did a bunch of things within those 20 years, but I think you want to show the stability more. Anything else? Okay, how we doing? Was today worth the time? Is there anything we're missing?
Yes, no.
Yes, today was worth the time. Is there anything we're missing? No.
What about our past things? Are you doing anything with those?
What things? Nope, not yet. I just want to make sure you have them.
All right.
Because next week, when we go over resume worksheet B, you're going to need those for resume worksheet B. So again, I'm just getting you warmed up to get things ready for your future piece.